You're listening to the Murphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Murphology Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy, aka Murph, and I am here to give tips and information about group bicycling and bicycle touring with a focus on the Midwest, and hopefully provide some entertainment for you as well. So this week we're going to do a special edition of Murphology Podcast. Actually, we're recording over the holidays. Today's actually Christmas Day, so anybody else who's listening to this on Christmas week, happy holidays. I wanted to take advantage of time with family. I do have several cousins and family members who do biking here and there, so I'll start out today with my favorite brother, Mike Murphy.
Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Hello. Wait, I'm your only brother.
Oh, shoot. Yes,
yeah.
That is
There we
true.
go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Still favorite.
Yeah. So it's probably not fair for me to say that I taught you everything you know, but since this is my podcast, I'm just going to say it, and you can defend it if you want.
Mm-hmm. No, you did. You basically taught me everything I know. Very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Over these holidays.
Well, we want to talk specifically about bicycling because this is a podcast about bicycling. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. First off, the biggest question is, how did you get into biking as an adult?
As an adult, so I had I don't know, I'd say a really strong love for biking, but as a kid and getting around town, that's where it started.
Sure.
And then as you get older, you start to get heavier. And so I was looking for ways to stay fit and running. I did a lot of running, and that was sort of getting boring.
Yeah.
And then I had a big influence. There was this gal named Kathy Murphy.
Oh, that's me.
Who did a lot of biking. So I was like, man, maybe I should give this a shot. And started, I wasn't doing like races necessarily, but doing like small triathlons, and realized I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a good release. It was a good way to, cover more ground than when you're running.
Oh yeah.
So you get to see a lot, and then did a few ragbris. I would say a few days of a few ragbris, and that was a lot of fun. And just the biking community has this kind of camaraderie. It's an interesting, interesting kind of culture.
Yeah. And thinking of ragbri, I unfortunately or fortunately talk about ragbri a lot on this podcast. And you and I have done ragbri together, like you mentioned, a couple days here and there. Mm-hmm. But one year in particular, I've been on a team, a shout out to Team Stiff. So we followed the bus once, and we had our father be our support vehicle. He had the family minivan, I think. Yeah. And so we get to some town. I don't remember what it was. I'm going to guess Eagle Grove, but I don't know if that's true. And our Team Stiff, the Team Stiff bus was camping at a country club, like a golf course country club. So we were literally camping on the course, and my dad wanted to be as far away from the party as possible because he wanted to be able to sleep. So we camped we walked
seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
Before we carried our tents for a mile and a half.
Forever.
Yeah.
We literally carried our gear forever. And then, I don't know, I'm guessing you and I probably hit our tents 11 o'clock at night. We partied for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the bar was still open, so let's guess it's maybe 12:30 or 1 a.m. Huge storm rolls in. I mean, trees were falling on the golf course.
It was scary.
Yeah, and we're each in our own tent, so we're yelling, trying to get my dad awake. His tent was literally rolling.
He didn't have it staked down or something.
Oh, it was crazy. So he somehow found his glasses, I think, and we all ran for the golf course, and we're standing underneath the awning of the golf course trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do. And then I look inside the golf course, and I see almost everyone in my team is still partying away. They don't even know it's raining. Everyone, forgot to put their tent flap,
the rain guard.
The rain gear thing on. Oh, yeah. Nobody slept at all that night. And I'm pretty sure what we did is we borrowed a golf cart, went and got our gear, and then we either slept in the minivan.
We slept in the van,
and then we drove home the next day.
Yeah.
Dried everything and came back.
Yeah. Everything was absolutely soaked.
Oh, my God. That was and I remember when we met back up with the team, everyone had been on no sleep. Everything was still wet. Oh, God. It was an awful experience. But But with that said, we were biking and it was fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah. And one of my favorite moments, we're biking along and somebody had thrown a banana peel. And as we're, there's hundreds of thousands of people biking and everyone was yelling, banana down, got a banana down. And, which, you say that when there's a biker down, but it's also, you could get in some trouble.
You could. I mean, bananas are slippery. It's a hazard,
Yeah,
You don't want to take them for granted.
Yeah. So looking back as a young adult, a lot of people will get back into biking when they go to college because they have to.
Yep.
Did you have a bike in college?
I did. And it's interesting because I had the bike that I had, it was a Cannondale mountain bike, so I enjoyed mountain biking, but it cost more than my car. So I took it sort of seriously. I didn't have a very nice car, but I took it sort of seriously. And like you said, I rode that thing the entire year round. So I remember, in the snow, ice, remember some good falls on the ice.
Yeah.
Not realizing that a bike doesn't really perform on the ice very well.
Right.
One particular, can I tell a quick story on it?
Of course.
So, so there, a new thing happened at University of Iowa. They instituted these bike folks, and they would kind of monitor bikers and make sure they were following the rules, etc.
So like cops on bikes?
Cops on bikes, but they were just like
campus.
They were students.
Oh.
So if you had a resume in biking, like, hey, I'm a good biker, they would deputize you as a bike police. And so we used to make fun of them and like, oh, come on.
Right.
Well, one day I'm going to class and I cut through, run a red light, and this guy like takes off after me.
On his bike?
Yeah. So I'm like, forget this. I can outrun this guy. So I'm going to beat hell and running. Oops, sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
So then I'm like riding. It's like between classes. So there's students everywhere. I'm like yelling, out of the way, out of the way. And I go clear across campus. And this guy wouldn't give up. I keep looking back and he's like, I'm not going to give up. Eventually I give up. I'm like, I couldn't breathe. I'm about ready to pass out. And so he's like, hey man, what's going on? And then he's asked for my ID. I'm like, I don't have an ID on me. So I gave him one of the guys from my fraternity who we always, when anybody gets in trouble, they always use this guy's name. So for that day, I was George Eversman. Sorry, George, if you got in trouble for that. But that was
Shout out to George.
Yeah, that was a college bike story. It was fun.
Oh my God! So did you get a ticket or anything?
No,
did George?
No, I did get a ticket, but it was like like one of those fake tickets.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And I congratulated the guy. I'm like, man, well done.
Yeah. You didn't give up, man. Yeah. Man, wow. Well, looking back to, obviously we're brother and sister, so we've grown up together. Mm-hmm. But I think I've mentioned this on a podcast before, but my first bike that I remember was, banana seat, had the ape hanger handlebars, and it was called Miss America.
Yes, I remember that bike.
It was red, white, and blue.
Yes, it was a thing of beauty.
Do you also remember that you sang a song about Miss America?
I do remember something about Miss America and Hunk of Junk.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it stemmed from, but I think I had envy, biking because it was much cooler than whatever bike I had.
Yeah, you probably did, but there may have been some tears. I may have cried a couple times about that damn song. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do remember beating the heck out of that bike because you were into BMX.
Oh, yes.
And so we lived in a town, a kind of suburb of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's called Marion. And we lived kind of in an area where there were like railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. So it was land that wasn't being used. And you and your buddies, I don't know how you did it. Do you remember that? You used to make
the trails.
Amazing BMX trails.
Oh, yeah. So, the house before, there was a section of Bowman Woods, if anybody knows Cedar Rapids. Yeah. And it was called the Fish Bowl. And anybody out there who's a little bit older will remember this fish bowl. So it was like an old creek bed, and you would kind of start and go down a couple hills, and then you'd come back the other side, and there would be a big jump. Oh. And so me and the guys, we stacked up. At one point, we had, I want to say, like 10 tires, like old tires.
Yeah.
Stacked them up, and we were jumping these tires and trying to clear them. I mean, in hindsight, I'm surprised. I can't believe I didn't get killed.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of started. It was like, okay, we had fun, jumping these tires, and then we moved to this new area, and we're like, all right, we're going to rebuild
You're going to make your own fish bowl.
We're going to have the fish bowl squared. It's going to be much better. Of course, it was pretty lame. It wasn't as good as the original, but that's where it started. And then it was still pretty good. It was fun. Yeah. We had some jumps and did that kind of stuff. So it was fun.
And I'm pretty sure I tried to take Miss America on those, but it was me and I think her name was Karen and Chris and Carrie,
Yeah.
And we, like, so all you guys would be building your trails and like, using shovels and tires and stuff. And for some reason, us girls would all be there and we were making a fort. So we would make a place that you guys would come and, we'd have snacks and stuff. It was like crazy stuff. Yeah. You mentioned briefly that you did a couple like sprint triathlons.
Oh, yes.
And I kind of remember this because I remember your first son was very young, and I think I came out with him to cheer you on.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The sprint Pigman.
The Pigman, that's right. The Pigman here. Yeah.
So do you even remember like what training was like at that point in your life as far as biking and...
Yeah, it was, at times it was sort of miserable.
Right.
Because the Pigman, if I recall, was like in June, I want to say. And this was the sprint version. I know they do a longer course in the later in the summer. So you had to start training in Iowa in cold. Like you needed to start by the latest, say, March. Probably earlier than that. So I remember being on the trainer in the basement and grinding it out. If anybody's been on a trainer, that's one of the most boring things in the world. Well, now
there's Zwift. So now
today Peloton, all these great things, but it used to just be you slap your bike in here and
it's brutal.
You put yourself in front of a TV and so it was an exercise in just mental strength. But then you'd get out onto the roads, and it would be cold, so you would have to really bundle up, get dressed up and warm, and really started to enjoy it. That's where I really started like riding the bikes and running, and it gave you a destination, something to train for rather than just go, casually ride.
Yeah. And I do recall, I don't know if this is when you were training, but so I live in Cedar Rapids, and at that time you lived in a real small town, I don't know, 15, 20 miles away. Mm-hmm. And I was riding my bike on the trail, just doing a fun ride on my own. And I ran into you. And you were, I think, coming from work on your way home.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like completely floored because from your work at that time to your home was what, 15?
It was 20 miles.
20 miles.
20 miles.
Each way. So you were commuting to work that way.
Yeah. Not every day.
No, but still, the fact that you did it.
Yeah, so as you ride longer, everybody who rides a lot will, you get more endurance, more strength. So then I was, and a lot of the guys I worked with were riding bikes and doing events. So I'm like, man, I'm just going to ride to work one day and see how it goes. And it was fun because the way there, I'm like, it's mostly downhill. I'm like, man, I am a hero. I'm averaging like 20 miles an hour. And there was one big hill when you get closer to work, but then on the way home, it's the other way. So then it's mostly uphill, and I think the wind was in my face the entire way.
Yeah.
And it was like 95 degrees. So,
each way.
But it was fun. It was a nice break, and like I said, you wouldn't do it every day.
Right. Yeah. So now you live in Austin, Texas, which I would say if you're a hardcore cyclist, have a lot of time on your hands, the cycling there is amazing because there's nothing flat in Austin.
It's the guys there that are good are nuts. They're so good. And the hills are crazy steep. But it's beautiful. So if you're a cyclist, that's the place to be.
Right. And there's I'm sorry I can't remember the event. We may have to cut this out if I don't.
Okay.
But there's an event that's meant to like let people suffer as much as they can.
It's the to hell and back. They
hell and
call
back,
it. It's there's a series of very famous hills in the Austin area, and they hit every single one of these. So by the end of the day, you've climbed about 12,000 feet, and it's 110 miles.
Oh man!
And this isn't for the faint of heart. So the people that even register for this are very strong bikers, and so it's a test.
Wow.
And they actually go right in front of our house because one of
your
the
hills
big
is your
hills
house.
is the Big View Hill.
Dang!
If you look that up, you'll see, and it's a series of extremely steep, just stair step. You're just like, okay, we're done. Then you're like, oh no, there's another. Then you're like, oh thank God, oh another. No, please.
Wow.
That's when you hope you had the battery powered motorized assist bikes.
Yeah, the e-bikes.
Yes.
Hope the battery doesn't go dead.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on I think it's year 47 for RAGBRAI. Do you think, maybe as your kids, are out of the house and in college, you'll ever come back and do RAGBRAI again?
Oh, I would think so. It's it's a more casual setup. You don't have to really win.
Yeah.
You don't have to, train necessarily as hard. So and what's fun is just to see all the different towns.
Sure.
After a while, for sure, they all look the same. You got a water tower in a little town with a bunch of pie.
Yes.
So, but it's a lot of fun, and just the people you meet and all that. It's great. Good food. Just it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's kind of fun. Get to hang out with you while you're in town and let the listeners see how cool my bro is.
I'm surprised I made the cut for this, but yeah.
Well, it's not on yet.
We'll see.
We may delete all this.
We may not make it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, thanks, Mike.
Yep, you bet.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's podcast is sponsored by MooseTreksBikePacking.com. This company loves bikepacking and has the quality gear to prove it. Check out their website, MooseTreksBikePacking.com. Now back to the show. Okay, well, I have another guest on the show. Hi, guest.
Hello.
So with me now is, I think I'm just going to say it, my favorite cousin, because
naturally
we're in a space where all the other cousins who are in the other room can't hear this. And I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but once it's live, it won't matter.
Cat's out of the bag
Cat's
now.
out of the bag. It's my favorite cousin, Ryan. Ryan B, to keep you anonymous, because I know you're afraid that this is going to become super popular and that everyone's going to be like, there's Ryan.
There's a chance.
So anyway, I'm glad that you could be on the podcast today.
Yes. Happy to be here.
Yeah, here we are on Christmas. We'll start out by giving me an idea where you live.
Okay.
Because I already know where you live, but tell the listeners where you live and how you would describe the cycling culture.
Well, I live in Cedar Rapids.
Iowa?
Yes, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Yeah.
And Cedar Rapids is really, the biking community here is really awesome.
It is.
I mean, there are so many trails. There's so many bar stops.
Yeah.
There's so many people, and everybody is friendly. Everybody is nice to each other.
Yeah.
You're pulled off on the side of the trail, and 10 people will stop and ask you if you need something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat place.
And the nice thing, like you mentioned, if you're about biking and bar stops, we've got tons of those. Mm-hmm. But the nice thing too is if you're, let's say you're training for an event, which we're going to talk about in a little bit,
mm-hmm.
you can literally get on a bike trail and go to another town. You could go 50 miles north, and I think we're getting closer to 30 miles south.
Yeah, pretty close.
And little towns in between, and
mm-hmm.
breweries or restaurants and all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah. Well, do you remember, we all had bikes when we were kids. I'm
mm-hmm.
sure since we are favorite cousins that I probably rode bikes with you when we were teeny tiny.
When you babysat me.
When I used to babysit you, yeah. I don't know if we rode bikes. I can't remember, but.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
I'm sure. Or I just walked behind you with you on your bike
mm-hmm.
and training wheels. But do you remember how you got into biking as an adult?
Well, actually, interesting that you asked the question.
Yeah.
So we used to live a couple blocks away from each other.
Yeah.
Back in 2004, I think, maybe 5, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And you started your Wednesday night bike club
That's
nights.
Right.
And I was like, I got to do this. Meet some new people.
Yeah.
And so, it was a lot of fun. So I bought a bike then and
wait, so that's how you got back into it as an adult was because I was doing my...
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, so I started Wednesday Night Bike Club in 2003.
Okay.
And literally we would start promptly at 6 p.m. all year round. So whether it was
mm-hmm.
dark at 6 p.m. or light. And at that point, we would ride 15, 20 miles away,
mm-hmm.
maybe have one beer and then come back. And then based on whether you had stuff to do on Thursday,
mm-hmm.
you would sit at that place and drink yourself silly or grab something to eat and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. I was probably on the borderline of drink myself silly back then. But
yeah, so did I.
Yeah. And, Wednesday Night Bike Club still exists. It's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
We still bike a lot. But anyway, how cool is that?
Yep.
So you got a bike and joined us and...
Yep. I did.
Wow.
Yep, it was pretty fun.
I hope I was good to you.
You were. Of course you were.
So have you biked in any cool places? I know you mentioned Cedar Rapids, of course. Have you ever gone outside of Cedar Rapids for biking?
Yeah, I ride a lot in the Madison area.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a job that takes me into Madison.
Okay.
So I'll put my bike in the back seat of the car
mm-hmm.
and we'll ride around in the evenings. Up there, they got great trails.
Oh my gosh, I love Madison.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. You can ride the Ironman bike course up there.
Yeah,
so it's all pretty close to Madison area.
Yeah, well, funny you should mention Ironman.
Yes,
because I was going to ask you about the Ironman.
Yes.
So you are an Ironman finisher.
I am.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
Like the amount of energy, training, mental game. I mean, you're a family man. Like somehow you had to balance work, wife, kids.
Well, when I first did it, Michelle was pregnant.
Oh, geez.
So it wasn't a big deal as much.
I'm going to guess it was a big deal.
Well,
we should have her in here asking her, because she'd be like, he would leave me for 5-hour bike rides.
Yes, I would. But at that time, at least we didn't have our children.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Born yet. But
what made you decide to do that?
So a friend of mine convinced me to do a sprint triathlon. So I signed up with her and did it in Ames, Iowa, which I'm not openly proud to admit that I have a like a cyclone on a water bottle of mine.
Yeah, which people who are not from Iowa, you should you're a
Hawkeye fan.
Hardcore Iowa Hawkeye fan.
Yeah, so it's hard to be a Cyclone fan if you're a Hawkeye fan.
Yes, yeah.
But yes, so I did that, and as soon as I finished, I was like, this was amazing. I want to just do this all the time now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you decided to do an Ironman, which I'm assuming most people know what an Ironman is, but it's like the longest multi-sport.
Yes.
I mean, it's 2.5 mile swim.
2.4.
2.4 mile swim. You get off your out of the water, and then you change as quickly as you can into your bike gear.
Ride 112 miles.
Ride 112 miles, and then it's still the same day, mind you, right?
Yep.
Then you get off your bike, switch into your running gear, and then you run
a marathon.
A full marathon.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a good time.
I don't know. Yeah. What was training like, or how was training?
It was a lot of training.
Yeah.
It was a lot of training. I mean, probably would say the average week, you're probably looking at about 13 hours of training. At its peak, it was about 22 hours. I ran the calculation. I don't remember the specifics, but it was about 5,800 miles.
Oh my gosh.
In 9 months. On top of all the running and the swimming, so.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
Do you remember what it was like to cross the finish line?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of just floated across the line.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Music's pumping.
Oh, man.
Lights are going.
And are we talking, 15, 16 hours, or?
It was just under 14.
14.
Yep.
So, think of all the things you do on a normal 14-hour day.
Yeah, I'm ready to go to bed after I've been up for 14 hours.
Right. And you were competing, exercising, working every muscle in your body and your brain.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
It was crazy.
It was
fun.
Do you think you'd ever do another one?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because it's amazing.
So you like the adrenaline and the whole...
I do. It is. It's definitely a rush. It's. I describe it to my wife. It's like a healthy drug.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It just gives you that adrenaline that you got to do.
Yeah. So do you know when you're going to do another one?
I'm going to do it in September
of 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
2020.
Yep.
Okay. September is the Madison?
Madison, yep.
All right, I'm going to have to come and be a spectator.
Heck yeah.
I've done it before at the Madison. A spectator, not a participant. I've never, I don't think I have the drive in me to suffer. Like, I did my first full marathon in 2018, actually. 2018. Okay. And that's... my only goal was to finish, and that's exactly what I did.
Yep.
And I finished it, and I was never, ever, ever going to run again, ever. And
then you did it again.
Even to cross the street, I was never going to run, ever. And then I healed up, and then I did a half marathon in 2019. But the training is really hard for me mentally.
Yeah.
And I'm not a super fit person in that way that... I'm not trying to be faster. I'm just trying to put in the time. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to maybe have a coach or something if I did it again.
Yeah. Well, so my first one, my goal was to finish as well.
Yeah.
And I did not have a coach. This year I'm probably going to get a coach.
Yeah, I think that would be...
just to help. Mm-hmm. I need to figure out a way to be able to balance, now that I have 2 kids.
Right.
And a full-time job that, requires me to travel.
Right.
There's no way I could just wing this one.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you don't have a pool in your basement for...
Shockingly, I don't. No. But the high school's not that far away.
Oh,
They let
sure.
you swim in it in the mornings.
Yeah.
So you have to be there at 5:30 because pool closes at 6:30. So you got to get your 1 hour in.
Right. And yeah, I don't know. I'm super proud of you, but
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your 2020 finish.
Oh, it'll be great.
Well, one quick story before we end,
Yep.
because I'm thinking about your triathlon, and you have a tri-bike, which
Yep.
I don't really know much about tri-bikes except that they're super fancy and super light.
They are super light.
Yeah. So you and I decided we took the afternoon off of work, or we both were working from home, and I put that in quotes, and so we decided to go ride our bikes.
Definitely, I was working from home.
Yeah, I think we checked our computers. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I looked at my phone once when we got to the bar.
Yeah, there we go. So we rode to a little town called Center Point, which I don't remember. It was maybe 35 miles round trip.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I don't recall what time of year it was, but the trail went from cement to kind of limestoney to kind of squishy.
Mm-hmm.
And
very squishy.
Yes. So on the way back, I think I had fenders, and I think you thought you had a brake problem, right?
Yes.
Like you're like, something's wrong. My brakes are sticking.
It was very hard to ride.
Yeah, you were like really, really suffering. And so we pull over and you tell the story.
Yeah, and I had, so where the bike frame wraps around the tire was completely impacted with mud.
Completely, yeah.
That we had to, basically almost had to take the tire off in order to get it so the tire would flow and run freely. So.
And what bike was that? Like that was your tri-bike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah, I ride a felt B16.
Okay.
So it's my fancy carbon fiber.
Yeah, that you probably
super light. That
probably shouldn't be on the squishy bike trails, but we didn't know it at the time. We did not know that was going to happen.
No,
but,
we didn't.
And then I do recall we got back to wherever we were going, and we had a beer, and I remember taking a photo from the knees down. We were just
of our ankles,
mud, complete mud.
Yep.
But you know, once you get to that point,
you don't even care.
And but there was nowhere to go. You had to drive, pedal through it.
Yep.
So anyway,
Yep.
yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know once you become famous, you'll remember that it all started here on the Murphology podcast.
Absolutely.
And actually, we should interview you after your your Ironman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, thanks for being on the show.
No problem, Kathy. See ya.
Go to your favorite podcast platform and please subscribe, rate, and review the Murphology Podcast. Also, check out murphologypodcast.com to find all kinds of great info. And if you have a topic, email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for tuning in to listen to this week's shortened, family-focused Murphology Podcast. I leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Dr. Seuss. Because when you stop and look around, this life is pretty amazing. Think about it.